Hey guys, thanks for joining me for episode of Learn and Play Games. My name is Lance, and today we're going to take a look at Mountains of Madness. This is a game by Iello Games. It is a 3 to 5 player game that takes roughly 45 minutes to an hour and a half to play, and it is a fully cooperative game, so all the players are working together against the board itself. So in the game, the players are going on an expedition in the 1930s to Antarctica, and this is set in the H.P. Lovecraft universe. So the players are going to work their way up the mountain to this hidden city, and then they'll try to escape from there. During their expedition, they're trying to find these different relics, and if they're able to find enough relics and not take a lot of injuries, then they will be successful in their efforts. Otherwise, the players will go mad and insane throughout the game and ultimately lose. So my opinions of this game so far is that this is definitely one I recommend. I've had a lot of fun with this one. It's a very interesting game that takes a different approach to the H.P. Lovecraft universe, as there's not a lot of Cthulhu or tentacles. It really focuses on the insanity and those different aspects. And it definitely brings some unique things, as the game is timed itself through different parts of it, where the players must communicate and achieve different goals within a short period of time in order to successfully gain the different relics that they're looking for. On top of that, as the game goes on, the players are going to receive madness cards, which will make them do all kinds of zany things, whether it's singing or moving around the table or doing all kinds of different things. And as they go up in the insanity levels, these things become more and more interesting and more frustrating for the other players, as the players cannot communicate what kind of madness traits they have, but the other players can speculate on it. So very, very interesting, unique game styles. So I would definitely recommend this one. The only people I would not recommend to this one to is if you don't like timed games, or if you don't like being put on the spot, as I've seen certain friends of mine absolutely lock up when they've become the leader, as each player will take a turn as leader and must organize and make decisions within that turn, and they have to do this in a timed manner. So if you're not into those kind of games, if you don't like pressure cookers, if you don't like being the leader or making decisions very quickly, this might be one that I would recommend passing. Other than that, if you're into these type of games, if you like H.P. Lovecraft and you're interested in different aspects of things and really focusing on the madness, this is one that I would definitely recommend. So, as these are just my opinions, I'd also love to hear your guys's. Let me know in those comments below if this is one that you've played or enjoyed or not. I'd love to hear your opinions on this as well. Also, if you find this video helpful, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it'll help me to continue to grow and bring new and exciting games to you guys. Also, if you want to stay up to date on all my videos as I release them, go ahead and ring that bell to get notifications in your email that I have new videos out. So let's go ahead and head to the table, and I'll teach you guys how to play. The main set of cards players are going to be using throughout the game are the equipment cards. This deck is going to be comprised of 4 different types of items. You have crates, tools, books, and weapons. Each of these cards is going to have a number from 6 to 2 on it. It is also going to have an image of the item that it is, and you will have a name on the card and flavor text that is referenced from the book that these cards are from. Later on in the game, as you guys will see, there's also going to be injury cards in here, as well as arcane items, which I'm going to cover next. So some of the other cards included in the game, we have injury cards, which as the game progresses, players are going to take injuries. These are going to be added to the equipment deck, and at certain points will be dealt out to the players into their hands. And these are basically dead cards. They're not going to help you. They're just going to hurt your hand. Then we have the arcane equipment cards. There are 2 of each type of equipment in those cards, and each of these has a value of 10. As the players complete successful encounter tiles, some of the tiles will allow them to gain these, and these will be added to the equipment deck throughout the game. Finally, we have relic cards, which there are 3 different types of relics. We have specimens, ruins, and knowledge. And these are the main purpose of the game. You're trying to collect these cards. But these are also negative cards. They're going to have an immediate effect on the player that gains them. Most of the time, they're going to have to draw a higher level madness. And they're also going to have an effect on the player that is going to add different tokens to the player's board, which will add constraints to that player, where they'll either have to discard a low item or different effects throughout the game, where they're not going to be able to use leadership tokens in certain areas. We'll take a closer look at this later on. The last set of cards we're going to look at are the Madness cards, and there are 3 levels of Madness, Madness level 1, 2, and 3, which is denoted by the ring around the card itself, the color of the card, and the image gets blurrier as you go higher up in the Madness. Each of these cards is going to have an effect on the player that has it. So for example, with this one, Perfect Pitch, you will sing while speaking, even poorly. So this is going to have an effect on the player each round during certain phases, as you guys will see. And these cards had a lot of fun and flair to the game, so that's the reason why I showed levels 2 and 3 blank, because some of the fun of the game is experiencing these cards for the first time, so I don't want to give away too much in these cards. Here we have the encounter tiles that players will be resolving throughout the game, and these will progressively get harder as the players work their way up the mountain, which they'll start with the coasts, then move on to the mountains, city, and finally at the very peak of the mountain is an Edge of Madness, and then if the players are able to, they'll have escape cards. Each of these cards is going to have a name and some flavor text to go along with it, and then the challenges for the players, where they're going to have to play different equipment cards and try to equal or fall within those number ranges or equal a specific number. And if they're able to, then they're going to receive the reward that is on the side of the card, as long as they complete at least one of these challenges. And then as you guys will notice, as the players work their way up the mountain, these tiles are going to become more and more difficult. Certain tiles will have specific numbers where the players must meet that amount of equipment. And you'll also notice that as you go higher up in the mountain is going to start playing tricks on you. Some of the items are not going to have color anymore. Some of the items are going to be reversed and have different colors or no colors at all in images, or exact colors and specific things to continue to mess with the players as they work their way up. To keep with the theme, the players are getting more and more mad as they work their way through the mountain. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to choose a player board to play as. All the boards are exactly the same and are going to have a quick reference guide for the turn sequence, as well as the different equipment types, and any leadership tokens that they can discard for their effects. Now, each card is double-sided and has a male and female version on it. Moving over to setup, you're going to go ahead and lay out the main board in the middle of the table, and this is going to have spots for just about everything you're going to be using in the game. And then you can also have the players select their players that they want to play as. So we're going to go ahead and play a 3-player game. And from here, then we're going to go ahead and set up the board itself. So first off, we can grab the coastal tiles, shuffle those up real good, and then place those out on each one of the coastal spaces. Any remaining tiles you have can be returned to the game box, as you won't be using those this time. You're going to do this with each one of the different tile types, so mountain, city, and madness, and escape. Now, one other thing before I move on to the next part of setup, you're also going to notice that there are printed images for each of the tiles on the bottom. These are for as the players move around the board and they resolve these encounter tiles. If they ever go back or go over encounter tiles they've already resolved, they still have to resolve that encounter, but there is no reward along with it. So they're going to be able to move up and potentially back down the mountain or from different areas, so they're going to have to resolve those as well. Then you can grab the injury card deck, take out a number of injury cards equal to the number of players. So we're playing a 3-player game, so we'll place 3 injuries in the discard pile. And then the rest of them can go face up in the injury stack. We can also place out the relics and the arcane equipment in those stacks face up as well, and you do not have to worry about shuffling those. For those of you who want to keep everything on the board, we can also place out all the little tokens that we're going to use for the different relics. And then we can go ahead and place out the 3 different madness decks. Go ahead and shuffle up each one of those separately as well. And the timer, the dice, and the little airplane model can go at the bottom. From there, then you're going to go ahead and grab the equipment deck, shuffle it all up, and deal out a number of equipment cards based on the number of players, as you guys can see on this chart here. So with us playing a 3-player game, we're going to deal out 5 cards to each player, and the rest of them can go up in the top corner here. Then we're going to select one of our players to be the leader, so we're going to go ahead and have this player be the leader, so he'll get the leaderboard and the 6 leadership tokens to start the game. Finally, before we start the game, based on the number of players, we're also going to deal out a number of madness cards. So as you guys can see on this chart here, with us playing a 3-player game, we won't start with any madness cards, but the more players that you add to the game, the more madness cards players will have. Mountains of Madness is played over an undefined number of turns. with each turn consisting of 5 phases, which are movement, encounter, resolution, draw, and rest, which is an optional phase. The players are going to continue doing this until one of the endgame conditions is met, which is if they ever have to place an injury card and the injury stack is completely out, or they have to return their last leadership token to the box, or if the players end their last turn on the last escape space. From there, then the players will move into the endgame and determine how they've done, whether they've lost or won. The first phase in each round is the movement phase, and the leader is going to decide which direction to move the airplane. You can discuss this with the group, but ultimately it is the leader's decision. You must start on one of the first coastal tiles, and you must choose to move. You cannot choose to stay in the same space. Once you've reached the Edge of Madness tile, you can no longer descend down the mountain. And during the movement phase, the leader can choose to discard one or more leadership tokens, and for each leadership token he discards, he can choose one player to ignore all of their madness cards for the rest of the turn. So let's go ahead and look at an example of this. We're going to go ahead and say that our leader chooses to start on this tile here. So he'll go ahead and place the airplane on there, and then we'll move to the next phase. The encounter phase is going to begin as soon as the leader turns over the encounter token that he is on and simultaneously turns over the sand timer. And this is going to continue until the sand timer runs out. From the moment that the sand timer is turned over until it runs out, all players with madness cards must apply their effects and play accordingly. The players are going to use the allotted time to discuss with their fellow players about the encounter card and determine which necessary equipment cards they're going to play. You are not allowed to show your equipment cards, and you must follow these 3 other rules as well. The text on your madness cards is going to override all of the rules. Most of the time, the equipment cards in your hand must remain secret, and the only time you are able to communicate anything about them is during the encounter phase while the sand timer is running. Before any cards have been played, any discussion relating to cards in your hands during any other time is strictly forbidden. And at any time during the encounter phase, any player may play equipment or injury cards from their hands face down onto the sled board. When the first player does this, all players must immediately cease all communication. All players can continue playing cards until the sand timer runs out, and if a player speaks while communication is forbidden, you must immediately discard a leadership token. So you definitely don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and look at an example of this. We're going to go ahead and say that we're going to flip over this tile and immediately flip over the sand timer. So our group now is going to try to play equipment cards from their hands to get them to fall within these 2 brackets. So we have a tool that must be between 7 and 9, and weapons between 8 and 10. So all the players are going to, again, then, like I said, look through their cards and discuss with each other what they have. So as of right now, our leader has 2 cards. He has a 6 of tools and a 6 of weapons. Our other player over here has a 4 of tools and 2 of weapons. And our last player over here only has 5 of tools. So in order to follow between these 2, of 7 and 9, we could have our one player play the 5 of tools and 4 of tools, and then we need 8 to 10 weapons, so we have our one player over here with 6 and the other player there with 2. So our players are discussing this as the sand timer is running, and once the players feel like they're ready, then they can go ahead and play these cards. So we're going to go ahead and put this in the middle of the board, and the players are going to play these. And like I said, you're going to keep all these cards hidden so the players don't actually know what they're playing. The other players don't know what they're playing. And then once that first card goes down, the players are not allowed to discuss anything anymore. So these cards are all supposed to be turned over. Once the sand timer runs out, then the turn comes to an end. Now, when the timer runs out, the leader has several seconds to decide whether or not he wants to discard a leadership token. And if he does, then he gets to start that sand timer again, and the turn is done over. Now, you can choose to do that multiple times, so if the group feels like they need more time, the leader can always choose to discard one of these to flip the sand timer over and give them additional time where they can just start again with discussion, and then when they play again, then they have to go silent. Now, with injury cards, you can also choose to play them during the encounter phase, just like other equipment cards, so they'll just be placed in the stack as well. So don't always get nervous if players are playing extra cards if the injury cards are already potentially out into players' hands. The third phase in a round is the resolution phase, which is going to start when the sand timer runs out and the leader does not wish to spend a token to restart the timer. During this phase, you're going to determine if you successfully overcome the challenges you faced. The leader is going to reveal all the cards played on the sled board and compare them to the challenge values of each challenge. If the total value of the cards matches the required equipment type, equals or falls within the range, then the challenge was a success, otherwise it is a failure. If you successfully overcome at least one of the challenges, the encounter tile, you're going to gain the reward listed. So let's go ahead and look at an example of this. We're going to go ahead and flip this over. And so we have the cards that we played, which are a total of 8 in weapons and 9 in tools. So coming over to our encounter, as you guys can see, we needed between 7 and 9 tools and 8 to 10 weapons. So we did meet both of those challenges, so the tile was a success, but if we would have just met one of those, we would also have succeeded in the tile. And so we're going to gain arcane equipment as our reward. So with rewards, there are 5 different types. We have relics, search, arcane equipment, heal, and praise. And let's go ahead and take a look at each one of these. First off, with relics, it's the tile that you have will tell you which relic you're going to gain. So you're going to find the relic within the relics deck, and then you're going to choose a player to gain that relic. Once the player gains that relic, they must resolve the top portion of the card, which is normally drawing a madness card to the next level, or the next level higher than the level they currently have. So let's go ahead and say, for example, that our Specimen A card was gained, and we chose to give it to this player. He's going to place it off to the side of his area. It is not going to count against his hand size, and this card is going to have him draw a Madness card of the next level, so he's going to gain a level 1 Madness card. Then it's also going to have him cover up. It says, when I am the leader, I cannot use leader tokens during the draw phase. So we're going to take one of the tokens to cover up the draw phase and place it over that. So now we know no longer that we can use that. The next reward is a search reward, which allows the leader to choose a face down encounter tile anywhere on the map and turn it over. They're also going to turn over the sand timer, and as long as that is running, the players can memorize the information on that tile. Once the time is up, the tile is turned back face down. They cannot discard a leadership token to add time to this. We have arcane equipment, which is what we gained. So the leader is going to choose an arcane equipment card from the deck and add it to the equipment discard pile. So with this one, our player can go through all the arcane equipment cards and choose one. So let's add some tools to our discard as our reward. The next reward is a heal. We're going to look through the equipment card discard pile for an injury card, and if you find one, you're going to put it back in the injury deck. You can heal an injury card played this turn. The last one is praise, which is going to take up to 2 leadership tokens from the discard area and put them back on your sled board. After potentially gaining any reward, you must suffer any failures you got this turn. For each challenge you failed to overcome, the leader is going to choose one of the consequences. The first one is one player chosen by the leader is going to draw a madness card, and if all players already have a level 3 madness card, you cannot choose this consequence. Or the second option is that the leader is going to roll the penalty dice. And if you must suffer multiple failures, complete one first before resolving the next. Then there's a set of rules we're going to look at for drawing madness. So if you must draw a madness and don't have any, you're going to draw a level 1 madness card. And if you must draw and already have a level 1 or level 2 card, you're going to put your card back in the game box and draw a card from the next level up. If you have a level 3 madness already, you cannot be chosen to draw a new madness card. And if all players already have a level 3 madness and one must be drawn, you're going to discard a leadership token from the sled. If no more leadership tokens are on the sled, then you're going to place a discarded leadership token back in the game box. And if you must put your last leadership token back in the box, then the expedition is considered a loss. And the last thing is you can never talk about your madness with other players when the timer's out. You must act as though you do not recall acting strangely, and the other players can only speculate about the madness that controls you, but you cannot confirm anything that the players say. So you must act like nothing is wrong and nothing is going on. But the other players can discuss and try to coordinate an effect to counter whatever madness they believe you have or other players have. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about the penalty dice, as that is the second consequence that the leader can choose. So the leader can roll the penalty dice, and there are 3 different results he may find. The first is an accident, which is going to cause you to draw 2 injury cards and then add them to the equipment discard pile. If the injury deck is empty, then the game is going to end. The next result are the question marks, which is confusion. You're going to discard as many cards from the equipment deck as the difference between the total value of the cards played and the challenge value. So, for example, if we would have missed our weapons, say we would have only played 6 instead of 8, we would have to discard 2 equipment cards into the equipment discard pile. And then the final result on there is the loss of confidence. You're going to discard 2 leadership tokens from the sled. If there are less than 2, you're going to return 1 to the game box instead. And the leader can always spend a leadership token during the resolution phase. The leader can discard one of his leadership tokens to re-roll the penalty dice, and this can be done multiple times. To end the resolution phase, you're going to go ahead and discard any of the cards that you had to resolve the encounter. So these will go into the discard pile, and then the encounter tile itself can be placed off to the side as this is no longer in play. From here, then we're ready to move into the draw phase. So the leader is going to deal equipment cards to every player from the equipment deck until all players have reached their hand limit or the deck is empty. If there are not enough cards in the deck for everyone to reach the hand size limit, the player is going to choose who receives cards. And you can always choose to discard a leadership token to increase all players' hand limit by 1 until the next draw phase. And you can do this multiple times. So let's go ahead and take a look at our players. Our player over here has 4 cards, our leader has 4, and our player over here has 3. So our leader will go ahead and take the encounter deck and dish out a number of cards equal to the hand limit of the players. From here, he could choose to discard a leadership token from the sled to increase everybody's hand size to 6 cards or more based on the number of tokens that he discards. Then this phase is over. The last phase in a round is the rest phase. And this is an optional phase. The leader does not have to choose to do this or not. And if he decides to rest, then you're going to follow these 3 steps. First, you're going to take 1 leadership token either from the discarded area or from the sled board and return it to the box. You're going to move any remaining leadership tokens from the discard pile back onto your sled board. And then you're going to shuffle all the equipment card discard pile and any of the remaining equipment cards back into a new deck. If you only have 1 leadership token, you cannot choose to rest. So now at the end of the phase, if the airplane is on the 3rd escape tile, the expedition escapes the mountain. Otherwise, whether you rested or not, the leader is going to pass the sled board to the player to their left, who will become the leader for the next turn. And the players are ready to start this all over again. The players are going to continue taking turns until one of the endgame conditions is met, which these first 2 are considered a loss. So if you must return your last leadership token to the box, you will immediately lose the game. And if you must draw an injury card and the injury deck is empty, you also will immediately lose the game. Otherwise, if you are on the 3rd escape tile at the end of the turn, then you're going to manage to escape the mountain. If the expedition has gathered fewer relic cards than there are injury cards in the equipment deck, the equipment discard, and all players' hands combined, then you will lose the game. If the expedition has gathered as many or more relic cards than there are injury cards in the equipment deck, the equipment discard, and all players' hands combined, then you have won the game. And to determine how successful you were on your expedition, go ahead and check this chart as you guys can see. And based on the number of relic cards minus the number of injury cards, whatever value you have is the result that you'll receive. And obviously the higher the better. Well, I hope you guys found that video helpful. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you enjoy these videos, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that subscribe button and liking the video, as it will help me to continue to grow and bring new and exciting games to you guys. And as always, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my videos and to leave me feedback on them. I do really appreciate it, and I do take into account everything you guys say. You can also swing by my Facebook and Twitter account. Let me know what you guys are doing, what you're playing, if there's games you'd like me to cover or things that you're interested in. I'd always love to start a conversation with you guys and love to hear from you guys. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.